Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's gonna be myself. So hopefully it's a good one. Gonna be taking on Eris. Pardon me, just adjusting the sound a little bit there. Windows audio adjustments are always tedious, but we have got ourselves, another match of me playing one of the bots to really just explore how good they are and how fun they are to play against. And so, I decided to play Terran this match once more. The tweak with this one, though, is going to be that it's going to be no rush for about 10 minutes is what I told myself, because I didn't want to try and get like a cheeky cheese win or anything like that. I just said I'll just play a straight up macro game. Now, knowing how these bots work and how they tend not to be too aggressive till they're maxed out gave me quite a bit of time in order to prepare and just build up my base and build up my production and macro and everything like that. So, Eris just doing its usual thing, going for extra hatcheries at its first spawning pool right out the gate. We are on the map Site Delta for this one. And ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. If you do have any feedback towards the audio, do go ahead and let me know. And of course, leave a comment down below saying more bots. Let me know if you want to see me play versus these bots more, or whatever you want to see. Let me know in the comments down below. And now we have got me just going for a command center on the low ground. I didn't need to go for a Reaper expand, so I just went right into a reactor because I've cast enough Eris games to know that it is not going to know that it's not really too big of a threat in the early game, so I don't really need a Reaper. I didn't even see this Overlord come on in, though, which is cool watching this. Just came on in, saw the command center, and that basically told Eris that it was safe to macro. So the bot is watching me, in essence, which is, very cool. And then we have got me just going for a couple Marines. I was actually hoping to catch an Overlord, so I believe I send these out looking for an early Overlord, but I guess I didn't find it. So good job being sneaky there, Eris. I figure I'm just going to play with siege tanks because siege tanks are very darn good against bots for the most part. And so that's exactly what I go right on into a tech lab on that factory. Not a usual TVZ build for the most part, but tanks are darn good against bots. So that's exactly how I figured I was going to play it and just get myself set up nice economically with the third base on the way. However, I did actually put it off location, which is a little bit embarrassing. Now, Eris behind this is just going up in the drones. It's a bit tough to try and out macro a Zerg, but when you do know that you've got a license to just throw your third down and just make as many SCVs as you want, it's not too terrible. Eris, though, is a macro machine. Of course, it's got the speed mining, which definitely helps these bots be a little more competitive. And then I just go for an armory because I'm kind of freestyling it playing this match. I'm like, usually I just go for like a battle cruiser opening or something, but it's a no rush match, so I couldn't do that. So I'm like, all right, another factory and an armory to get some upgrades. Why not? I do send a scouting marine across the map. I don't think this really breaks no rush, just to sort of see what Eris is up to. The Zerg bot doesn't even flinch upon seeing that. It still just doesn't even make any lings, which shows us that it does have some very well set requirements before it really sees something as a threat. I do shoot down one of the Overlords, so I at least get that. I'm dropping my mules. My third base is done, although I do have to move that over a little bit. And then I'm just macroing up, getting out some siege tanks and getting ready for the storm that I know is going to be coming. Because while I'm respecting the no rush 10 minutes, Eris doesn't really understand the concept. So it will attack me whenever it's good and ready to attack, which is around the 10-minute mark, I believe, for Eris, because by the time that it's made all its drones, gotten up all its production, and extra hatcheries and stuff. That's usually how long the games for Eris go. I do send out some Marines to try and get up an expansion. I actually had to send out these Marines as a guard because Eris did kill off my first SCV that I sent here to build my 4th base. I am being a very greedy Terran, though, getting up a 4th base before Eris even gets up its own 4th, or pretty much right at the same time, actually. And so I'm definitely being greedy. You would never get away with what I'm doing in a ladder game, and Eris actually kind of tries to punish this a little bit with sending out some Lings, going for a run-by, and it does target down the SCV, kills a couple of Marines, so I was being a little bit greedy, have my 4th base canceled, and of course Eris just plants a drone right in the ground, so I can't rebuild that CC earlier. As soon as that happens, I'm like, of course. So I have to wait till I have a scan before I can plant that on location. And that continues to be one of the hardest parts about playing against the bots, is trying to expand once the Zerg bots have burrowed, because it's just Lings all over the place, burrowed in the ground, planted like potatoes. I do start to get a little worried at this point. I'm like, oh man, Eris is already starting to attack and whatnot. In comes many more Lings going for a run by. My tank does get some shots off, but Eris does come in, starts attacking the command center, trying to cancel it. Fortunately, I did decide to build a bunker, so I can just plop my Marines in that bunker. And at some point, Eris says, hey, I can't actually win that fight, and tries to escape with whatever it can, which isn't a lot. But the tank in the bunker helps out. Eris is getting its upgrades behind this. The Zerg bot is up to 78 workers, which means it's almost at the point of spamming units, which it does once it's got the economy to do so. So I'm like, okay, I better really start making some units. I'm making Hellions because I saw all those Lings. I'm just making more and more siege tanks. So playing defensively, a little bit like BenBot here today. I try and get up a 5th base because who doesn't love more command centers to build planetary fortress and whatnot, because I am really starting to anticipate attacks by Eris. Eris actually has an incredible amount of money in the bank right now. It had over 2,000 minerals in the bank. It decides to make lots of Lings. Does it have a Hydra Den yet? No. Now it decides to build that Hydra Den, gets a Roach Warren on the way. So it's going to be a little bit before Eris gets up even more production, but yeah, the Zerg bot, it's making more drones, making more Lings. Soon enough, the storm will be coming. And that 4th is now being secured. Well, the 4th is being a command center, an orbital command, but I do want that planetary, so I still build that extra CC. And then I'm just spreading my tanks out, getting ready for whenever an attack is going to be coming, building up depot walls. Definitely turtling against Eris because we're at the 8-minute mark now. There's 2 more minutes, I said, until I can attack. I think Eris is going to beat me to the punch on this one, though, being at 91 drones versus my 81 SCVs, but the Zerg bot has got up lots of production. It's getting out a Lurker Den, an Infestation Pit, 2-2 upgrades on the way. I do have my own 1-1 upgrades done. I'm getting up more factories. 7 factory mech production is nothing to scoff at. You can make a lot of very strong units. I'm even getting up more command centers, so I can take a 5th, getting up some more orbitals in my main base. And then I still just have my tanks just hanging out, but Eris is getting close to that 200 supply mark where the Zerg bot loves to attack. I'm scanning to even try and clean up some creep, and I actually do see the Hydras upon poking forward with these Hellions. So I'm like, okay, there's Hydras. There's going to be an attack coming at some point soon. Start to make Thors because that was my game plan going into this match, to play a heavy Thor composition, just because who doesn't love Thors? Because I didn't want to go mass BCs, because we have seen me play battle cruisers against Eris before, I believe. Now, more and more command centers are going up for me. I've just been macroing up, knowing that I'm pretty safe until Eris goes for its big attack, and then just getting ready for that. But Eris does then decide to move on in and attack. I started building a supply depot wall. I just have 3 tanks to defend, but they are getting off some pretty big shots. I have to pull all the rest of my units forward. The Lings spill forward, kill off the 2 tanks. SCVs are dying at my 4th base. And I'm like, oh man, do I have enough stuff at this point to defend this? It's 130 supply against 200 of Eris. My tanks are sieged up. A fungal catches some of my Hellions, though. Another fungal goes down as well. I do spam drop mules on that base, though. Reposition some of my siege tanks. And then just staying on production is important as a mech player because you're always behind on army supply. So at some point you really got to stay on your production so that gap doesn't get too big. I have a successful defense against that though, and Eris, it's coming across the map to go for another attack, coming in with lots of lings, but the tanks are set up quite nicely. The queens are moving forward with this right now. There's 12 queens out for Eris, so it's got lots of inject potential. I do think that Eris, one thing I take away from this match though is that the Zerg bot actually, I think it almost makes too many drones, because while it's maxed out and is looking to go for an attack, it doesn't seem to have that big of an army, because army supply, it's actually neck and neck. So I'm not too concerned at this point. There is lurkers though, which are a bit of a nuisance, burrowed units, then infestors tossing out spells, but like after a few of the units die, Eris's army just is not that big. Reinforcements come across the map. Lurkers are still being a bit of a pain. Seismic Spines is on the way for Eris as well, Adrenal Glands. The attack point does seem to be this 4th base though, which I'm holding pretty effectively with these tanks. Hellbats, I do want to get up a planetary to really lock this position down. Eris does keep tossing out fungal growths, but I'm slowly maxing out myself. 184 supply. Eris tosses out another nasty fungal. It does like to use those spells, which is really cool to see. Still though, I'm ahead on supply by by a significant margin. I mean, even Zerg supply against Terran mech supply means that the Terran's in a pretty good spot. Resources lost wise, it's 6,000 to 12,000. Army value, we're actually not too far apart from each other. Mine's worth a bit more. Eris comes on in for an attack though. It has made some Vipers to try and deal with the tank, so it can utilize those spells. And it does abduct a tank or two, which is cool to see. Eris does have some capability to deal with siege tanks. It is constantly eating tank shots during this engagement though. And then, yeah, the Vipers move forward. They abduct another Thor, then immediately neural it, which is cool. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta kill my own Thor or something. Fungals are going down too. Yet another neural parasite catches some of my Thors, and it's Thor on Thor violence. So I'm just trying to walk forward and kill the infestors, which I do manage to do. Eris is attacking forward still, but again, the Zerg bot kind of lacks supply. Resources lost does improve for Eris with those Thor pickoffs and whatnot though. I'm still locked down on 5 bases, just on a pretty solid Terran economy though. I did lose quite a bit of supply there though, being knocked down to 150. Meanwhile, Eris is just remaxing and replacing everything it can, spending all its money as fast as possible though. And so far, things are not going too terrible for me. As, yeah, I mean, I've got tanks and a planetary. It's not easy for a bot to break these. I got tanks all over the place, just set up nice and solidly to defend. Eris did lose quite a bit of supply too, so it takes some time to remax, getting out more spellcasters, quite a high amount of lurkers, and there is more tanks on the way for me too, though, to defend this. What am I at right now? 11 siege tanks, lots of Thors. Eris is getting 2-3 upgrades on the way. In come all these lings and lurkers. As Eris decides to attack for it again, I'm like, oh man, these lurkers are being a nuisance. They're actually spining the heck out of my planetary fortress with their seismic spine range. There is infestors tossing out fungal growths, catching the Thors, which isn't the most effective. And then with the lurkers attacking the planetary, that did allow me to kind of come forward. And I do manage to clean them up. Infestors are still trying to neural parasite some of my Thors. Eris does manage to kill the planetary though, but I think it wasn't too bad of a fight for me. Now I'm like, okay, I just took a good fight. I can move out, clean up some creep, and then I'm trying to clear the way so I can take another base and get up a 6. Eris, while this is going on, is on 7 bases right now. I'm not sure when I realized that the Zerg bot actually had a base so darn close to me, which, who knows, maybe that's why it's just attacking from this location. Still, though, I'm in quite a good spot, ahead on supply, trying to clean up the creep so I can get up another base. I'm building more command centers, so I will have one to float over. I must have been blocked by a changeling or something, as I did try and build 2. There, I finally get the second one up. I'm just about maxed out, though. Eris is moving forward. I'm not sure Lings are what you want to try and break mech. It's gonna try that once more though. There is infestors moving forward. Fungal growths, 2 Thors died there. I don't recall that, but that is Eris getting at least some decent trades out. Lurkers, though, aren't really burrowing, helping out too much, but there they go, burrowing. Neural Parasite catching a Thor, and the Neurals are just at the absolute max range. I'm kind of getting used to them, though, at this point, so I'm really starting to target down those Infestors, which saves my Thor's life. Eris is taking more bases during this, but it really is spending a lot of money. And even with 92 drones, the Zerg bot is just trading out so darn fast that it is having a hard time staying maxed out. My own income isn't the best, that's for sure, as Eris is actually just doubling my mineral income, which is very impressive. I guess I'm not dropping enough mules or something like that, or my saturation is starting to get a little bit messy as I transfer some SCVs and I try and get a 6 base up. Still though, I got quite a few Thors, quite a few tanks. I do need to repair all these up, which I think I do pull a few SCVs to start repairing, but with securing a 6 base, I do begin looking to attack into Eris. However, the Zerg bot's going to beat me to the punch with that, going for an attack. Lurkers killing off 2 Thors, Lings getting forward on top of the siege tanks, and then Viper. There is a Viper, which doesn't actually go for an abduct. They do get taken out by the Thors, which is a little painful, and then the tanks are just shredding the Zerg force. Neural Parasite catches the Thor, but I shoot that Infestor right away. There's another one as well, and I'm like, oh man, just so many Neural Parasites. My Thor kills my own tank. Does it actually kill 2? Yeah, it kills 2 of my own tanks. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Still though, I'm able to push on in. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a Zerg base right here. Eris is really fighting to defend this. Lings are getting on top of the Thors and tanks, actually not doing a terrible job. There's another Lurker burrowed, so I got a scan yet again. Thankfully, I do have 7 orbitals. Still, though, this Lurker is actually getting a lot of work done. I didn't realize how many units I lost at this point. I'm like, okay, more Thors, more Hellbats, getting these other bases going, getting another defensive planetary up. Fungal catches a bunch of tanks. I am able to kill this base, though, which is quite important. Now, Eris, it does kind of run its drones all over, but this does seem to be a bit of a weakness in the Zerg bot that I've maybe noticed a little bit. I don't actually know how big of a weakness it is, but it does tend to plant its drones instead of running them away sometimes, when maybe it would be best doing this. At this point, though, I do have a ridiculous amount of siege tanks. Lings are trying to get on top, even though they're cracklings. There's just so much Terran mech. It's 60 Zerg supply to 120, so Eris is trying to defend. There's Infestors still tossing out those Neural Parasites. That one does it right in the range of a scan, though, so it does get taken care of. Yeah, so much creep, though, for me to clean on up. I know Eris has got more bases, and these Zerg bots are not dead until they're dead, as it's just making whatever it can afford still. But the Zerg bot has fallen down in the income. Resources lost 26,000 to 47,000. So Eris, it's got some really great army control, but it's just so difficult to program a bot that deals with tanks. It does almost make me feel a little cheesy dealing with tanks, but I mean, even the Thors and the Hellbats were doing pretty well for themselves against the mass Ling composition. I may have to try doing another match versus Eris, which I play Bio and do no rush 10 minutes, because without tanks and just with Bio, it might be a lot more difficult. I mean, Bio doesn't necessarily do very good at no rush, though, because you're like, hey, you usually start a Bio game off with dropping the opponent and controlling creep, which it's like, is that really no rush 10? It's tough to say. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this match of me taking on the top Zerg bot, and Eris really showing us its depth in this no rush 10-minute match, there's the very great Infestor usage. I was lucky that Eris didn't really try and attack anywhere else, and that it does play well into mech that the bot just kept attacking the same location. And yeah, well done to the bot authors. If you guys did enjoy this match, click that like button, leave a comment down below saying more bots. I'll probably play versus some of the other bots in videos. I may do one more Eris. match against Eris or something. Maybe like No Rush 10 as Protoss. Who knows? That might be more fun, but it'd probably just be me turtling into carriers or something. Still, though, these bots are very fun to play against, and I leave the link of how to play against them in every description. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll do some casts of you guys taking on the bots, which might be a fun thing to do. ES Champ does that though for their amazing Pro Bots tournament, and I don't really want to rip that off, but at the same time it may be something that's fun to do. And the guide's actually created by ES Champ, and the application that allows you to play versus these bots. And yeah, so that guide's got all the info you need. If you guys do want to support the channel, consider becoming a YouTube member. We are just shy of our goal of 10 members. We are currently at 9, so if we can hit 10, that would be very cool. And yeah, big thanks to everyone that does support the channel. I'm just slowly trying to clean out Eris. Oh, pardon me. Let me actually rewind a little bit. I sent out some SCVs because I was going to just expand to this base. Of course, Eris was already re-expanding here. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't have the APM to deal with this, so I just send my SCVs to fight the drones, to try and kill the hatchery. But then Eris actually sends Lings to go kill my SCVs. I'm like, oh man, you jerk. So then I had to go send all my Hellions over there to go deal with that, as Eris just refuses to die. It is dying, just taking its sweet time. And yeah, so I had to send Hellions over to actually clean that up, because I did want to try and take that base. As I mean, I was starting to mine out quite a little bit. Drones burrowing in the ground. There's not much else they can do at that point, really, though, as all the bases are in quite a bit of trouble. And yeah, these bots are very fun to play against for a rusty Starcraft player like me. Scans going down, just trying to clean up all the creep. I was curious how many creep tumors I killed at this point, and the answer to that question was, oh, did they not? Oh, they don't show on units lost tab, or unless I'm blind. No, they actually don't. That's bizarre. Yeah, no units lost tab, which is unfortunate. At this point, Eris does have 105 still, so you can kind of just imagine how many I killed cleaning all these locations up. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.